from it. Destiny arrives all the same. The Santa Monica Pier, the first stop for many visitors to Southern California, but for the strongmen competing today, it is the final stop on the road to the Arnold Strongman Classic in Columbus, Ohio. Brian Shaw and Martins Licis, two of America's best, will be on display here today. The mission for them is simple. They have to win to get themselves to Ohio in March. Thanks for being with us today, everybody, here on the Rogue Iron Game. I'm Sean Woodland with Dr. Bill Crawford. Margot Alvarez and Josh Bridges will be along here with us in a little bit. It's a gorgeous day out here, Bill. We're in sunny Santa Monica, California. We have a strongman competition that we get to watch live. I mean, we are in for a hell of a show today.
Sean, I'm really excited. Could there be a better place for a strongman competition than right next to Muscle Beach? But I'm mostly excited about the matchups. Yeah. These are key matchups. It's head-to-head. There is no tomorrow. Yeah, this is going to be a fun-filled day today here at the Santa Monica Pier. And we have a jam-packed show for you here on the Rogue Iron Game as we get you set for the Arnold Strongman USA. Of course, we're going to focus on the big matchup between Brian Shaw and Martins Licis. We will recap the CrossFit Games season so far as we head to Madison, Wisconsin, and the 2020 Reebok CrossFit Games later this year. We will talk to Sean Waxman, international weightlifting coach and member of the USAW Board of Directors as Team USA gets set for the Tokyo Olympics. And, of course, we're going to find out who Bill thinks is going to win today, but I'm going to put you on the spot later on for that. But you mentioned it just a second ago. Last stop, I mean, the pressure is on today. Well, there are 13 athletes representing 7 countries, and there is no next week. Mm-hmm. This is it. You compete, and you punch your ticket to Columbus, or you don't. Today, champions will be made, and champions will be broken.
This is a list of competitors who we will be seeing today. Now, some of them have already qualified to the Arnold Strongman Classic. That's J.F. Caron, Rob Kearney, and Alexei Novikov. Now, of course, Hafthor Bjornsson, the two-time defending champion, has already qualified. He's not competing today, and Mateusz Kieliszkowski as well has qualified, but he will not be competing here. But ton of talented athletes here. What are you going to be watching today?
Well, the obvious one is the matchup between Martins and Brian, because they are storied strongmen, former world's strongest men competitors and winners, great athletes. And they're in a kind of a place where they normally don't find themselves, which is just trying to qualify for the Arnold. Right. But then there's another set of athletes that are trying to, based on the point standing, get into the Columbus show. So we've got to watch them as well.
Yeah. Well, Martins Licis last year had a heck of a 2019, and it actually started right here in Santa Monica when he won the Arnold Strongman USA. He took that momentum, went to Columbus, finished second at the Arnold Strongman Classic, and then won World's Strongest Man. He's not only trying to duplicate that performance here in 2020, but also improve on it.
The man known as the Dragon, the man with the fire in his belly, out of the USA via Latvia, Martins! The Dragon breathing fire!
Martins Licis to take on the Husafell Stone, and he is off to a very fast start. He's still going after this thing. And Martins Licis looks like he will be your new leader. Great fight from Licis. Licis with a great pace here.
He's got Arnold cheering him on.
The Dragon hopes to breathe fire in 2020. He's still early on here in his strongman career, but has already compiled a very impressive resume. Second place last year at the Arnold Strongman Classic, 4 appearances at the World's Strongest Man competition, won that in 2019, and then his Moss Wrestling background as well, former world champion in that. But he has been dealing with a bit of a neck and shoulder issue here. I know you've spoken with Martins, you've spoken with his coach, Hagen. Is he going to be ready today?
Well, last year Martins had an unimaginable year. He took the momentum from the second-place finish at the Arnold and went on to win the World's Strongest Man competition. And sometimes that happens, and after a breakout year that you find the pressure and it builds up and you find yourself with an injury. But he's been training great. I spoke to Hagen. Says he's been deadlifting well. He's been pressing overhead well. He's ready. He's here to win.
And Margot Alvarez is another member of our broadcast team, and she caught up with the Dragon as he gets set to throw down here in Santa Monica.
The crowd is coming in. The energy is electric here at Santa Monica Pier. I caught up with Martins. Awesome. I love it. So last year you had a pinched nerve in your neck. How are you feeling now going into this final?
I feel really good. It's finally starting to come together. Just the last few weeks, I got my strength back. I'm ready.
That's awesome. What areas do you need to dominate to make it into the final to get it to Columbus?
Make sure I get enough calories. But my Achilles heel has been throwing. So I need to kick ass at throwing, and everything else I just got to win.
That's awesome. I like that strategy. Thank you for your time. Sean?
Thanks, Mark. Is that chocolate syrup he just freebased
It is.
in there?
He's a free spirit. We love it.
I guess, well, hey, man, whatever gets you ready for a competition. If Martins is the future of American Strongman competition, Brian Shaw is certainly the past and the present. He is unbelievable when it comes to strongman and his accomplishments. He is clearly one of the best, if not the best, American of all time. The 10 consecutive appearances at the Arnold Strongman Classic, trying to make that 11 today. He is a 4-time world's strongest man, and he's never finished worse than 5th place at that competition. You know him better than anybody. You spent a ton of time with him. Why is Brian Shaw, what makes him so good?
Well, I've had a front row seat to Brian's career for the last 10 or 12 years, and Brian's a student of strongman. Brian's a consummate professional. He has exceptional physical gifts, but really what sets him apart is his professional ability to get himself ready for competitions. He's made everybody else pull themselves up and get ready.
And he's looking lean, too, for Brian Shaw as a strongman. I mean, he posted this on Instagram earlier. He is clearly ready, and he spoke with Margot Alvarez earlier today.
Last year you were here as a spectator. This year you're here competing at the last event before the Arnold in Columbus. How are you feeling? Is there any pressure?
Yeah, I mean, of course there's a little bit of pressure. I mean, it's I got to get my qualifying spot done, of course, and you know, I feel good though. I'm comfortable. You know, I trained really hard for this, and I'm ready to do everything today. So I just got to go do it.
Awesome. Glad to hear that. Your voice is a little spotty. Is that from nerves? Is that from your training? Are you just super excited to be here?
You know, honestly, I've been getting over a kind of a head cold, and I feel fine, but it's just for whatever reason my voice decided today, hey, I'm not going to work. But luckily, I don't need to yell out here or talk. I just need to lift, so I'll be fine.
That's awesome. Well, best of luck to you. Thank you so much for your time, Brian.
100%.
Sean?
Thank you, Margot. It's good that Brian will be doing his talking on the competition stage there. Of course, that matchup between Brian and Martins Licis is a big one. We're going to keep a close eye on that. We talked about the point standings earlier. Now, Matjaž Belšak from Slovenia, relatively safe. He would have to have a disaster to not make it to the Arnold Strongman Classic in Columbus. But you mentioned that matchup going on behind him, the matchup between Gerry Pritchett and Ronald Heinle. Why is that so intriguing to you?
They're both great at the same events, static events, pressing overhead, deadlifting. I think sometimes Rano's kind of struggled with his grip a little bit, so the carrying events could really play into this. But also Jerry's a little bit taller and probably will have a little bit better ability to get the bags over the bar. So I think this is kind of the way it's going to play out. I'd have to give Gerry the nod.
Yeah, and Gerry also has an advantage in the deadlift. You expect big things from him today in that.
Well, Gerry could pull out 10 reps. I think it's going to take close to 10 reps to win that event.
Yeah, that'll be an impressive performance from him. We're going to shift gears here really fast and focus now on the CrossFit Games season. That is well underway, and that started back in October with the World Wide Open. One workout per week over 5 weeks. That was the first round of qualifications for the 2020 CrossFit Games. We are now in the sanctioned events season. That goes through July 5th, and the CrossFit Games take place July 29th. That is in Madison, Wisconsin. And all eyes right now, and all eyes in Madison will be on one Matt Fraser. Last year, he became just the second man to win 4 consecutive CrossFit Games. This year, he can be the first man to win 5. He has been dominant, and he is showing no signs of slowing down anytime soon. His routine is familiar. He shows up, he dominates, he wins. Since Matt Fraser debuted at the CrossFit Games in 2014, he has never finished lower than second. In fact, the last time he did not win an in-person competition was in 2015 when he finished second to Ben Smith at the CrossFit Games. Every time since then that he has shown up in person to compete, he has won, and this year he's trying to become the first man to ever win 5 CrossFit Games championships. Going to welcome in a couple of familiar faces now to the CrossFit community. 6-time CrossFit Games competitor, man who finished second in 2011 at the CrossFit Games, Josh Bridges, and 6-time individual competitor and 1-time team competitor last year at the Games, Margot Alvarez. You two have had a front row seat to what Matt Fraser's been doing. How impressive is this?
It's an absolute, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Coming in his first and second year, coming in second, finding that fire then and actually going up and winning 4 straight in a row. It's crazy. It just shows how dedicated he is to his craft. You see a lot of CrossFit Games competitors come in, do a good for a year or two, especially after you win something. Being a champion, being on top is always, it puts a target on your back. And so watching Matt come in and actually always getting better every year, his margins of victory getting greater, it's just so impressive to watch. And I'm excited to see how he does this year.
He definitely has that potential to be the first to win 5 in a row. I think a big pivot in his career was in 2015 after he lost to Ben Smith. He himself said, he realized he didn't even flip any tires, so he had the mentality to go into the gym, go flip tires at midnight, and I think that speaks a lot to his character, and it's going to set himself up for success this year. Yeah,
Matt Fraser has already qualified for the 2020 CrossFit Games, but the same cannot be said for some of the men who finished in the top 10 at the CrossFit Games last year. James Newbury, who finished 5th out of Australia, he still has some work to do because he had an injury during the Open. Now he has to try and qualify through a sanctioned event. Same story with fellow Australian Matt McLeod. Adrian Moonweiler dropped out of the Open, decided he wanted to qualify in person. And then Saxon Panchik, he needs to qualify through one of the sanctioned event as well, as does Will Morad, who was dealing with a little bit of an injury last year. But when you look at that, what stands out the most to you?
Same names, right? Yeah. It always comes back to it every year, same names. You got Matt Fraser, Goodmanson's up there. Seeing Scott move away from the individual side was a little shocking to me, especially after coming off the season that he did last year. Moonweiler, we'll see, how he does, how he fares out through at the 150. I thought he was going to do well. Ended up not getting that spot with another guy coming in. But, as you always, it's the same names. Yeah, and then Pat Vellner wins the Open. What does that do for his confidence? I mean, that's Pat Vellner coming out, making a statement, especially after coming off the season that he had last year, not doing the quite as well at the games that he wanted to do. I'm sure that lit a huge fire underneath him, and he was ready. And he came out and he made a statement in the open. And it's going to be exciting to watch and see how it plays out the rest of the season.
Yeah, we are just starting the schedule for sanctioned events. We are only 5 sanctioned events in, so plenty of opportunities left for the athletes to qualify for the CrossFit Games. Justin Medeiros kicked things off with a win at the Filthy 150. Also got the invite. Brent Fikowski was impressive in Dubai. Talk about that in a second, but that invite from that competition goes to Tolamora Quino. And then last week in Tennessee, Chandler Smith, impressive performance to win the Mayhem Classic, and Luke Schaefer earns the invite, his first ever individual invite at the CrossFit Games. But Margot, Justin Medeiros is pretty intriguing. He looked impressive in Ireland.
Yeah, he's a younger athlete. He's 20 years old, has a little bit of experience from the 2017 and 2000 regional. He won. He got the invite going to the games in 2020. He didn't win any single event, but he was very consistent in his performance. He had 5 top 3 event finishes. He only had 1 event out of the top 6 spots. And I think he's going into the games in a really good spot. He has a lot of excitement, a lot of energy, and I'm looking forward to watching him into 2020.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to talk to him. That kid is, like you said, young, but has a maturity level that you would not expect from someone his age. Mention Brent Fikowski. How big was it for him to go and perform the way he did in Dubai?
It was huge. Again, the same. Brent Fikowski is not an open a guy you think about when it comes to crushing the open. So for him to be able to go to Dubai and do the things that he did, especially coming off the season where he, again, got cut. I remember listening to an interview where it said, I'll never get cut again. This is never going to happen again. So obviously he lit a fire underneath him. He got hungry, and he came out and he proved it very well that he's here this year to be the games, to be in that top 10 spot and not make it get cut. So it was impressive.
Yeah, on the women's side, Tia Toomey is that division's Matt Fraser. She made history last year. She became the first woman to win 3 straight CrossFit Games championships, and she is really following the same path as Matt Fraser. I mean, she just gets better every year and looks more dominant. And we just saw her at the Mayhem Classic in Cookeville. I mean, it was her and it was everybody else, and it was not even close.
No, watching Tia is impressive.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's one of them, like, watching anyone who is so dominant in their sport. You got Rich, you got Matt, and now you have Tia on the women's side, where it's like, I don't see anybody beating her. I don't see anybody dethroning Tia until Tia decides to step down and go do something else. She's one of the hardest workers. She is so dedicated to her craft, and it's so fun to watch her compete. I love it. I love her excitement. I love how her energy. It's just crazy. She's phenomenal.
Yeah, she's going to be tough to stop here in 2020. Unlike the men, the majority of the women in the top 10 at the CrossFit Games last year have already qualified for the CrossFit Games here again in 2020. Sarah Sigmundsdottir won the Open. We're going to talk about her in a second, but Tia Toomey gets in as the fittest woman in Australia out of the Open. The only woman in the top 10 who has not qualified, who's eligible, is Turi Helgadottir. So she's going to have to go through one of the sanctioned events to get herself back to the CrossFit Games. But Margot, when you look at that list, what jumps out to you?
I think of Carrie Pierce.
Yeah.
So she was the fittest American woman in 2016, 2018, 2019. She was the fittest U.S. American woman in the 2020 CrossFit Open. And I think she's proven herself year after year. I spoke to her a little bit, and she said she was happy about her performance at this past year. Obviously, some things to improve on, things to work on. She has a new weightlifting coach that she's working with, and so I think in terms of preparation for the 2020 Games, I have my eye on her.
Another athlete I think a lot of people are watching right now is Sarah Sigmundsdottir. She had a great Open. She won that, and so far she has pretty much dominated the sanctions season. She has won 2 of them. She's the only woman who's won multiple sanctioned events. Started out with a win at the Filthy 150, looked really good there, and then a great field in Dubai. She won that event. Sam Briggs earns the invite. And, of course, last week at the Mayhem Classic, it was Tia Toomey winning in dominant fashion, won 6 of the 7 events. But we've been here before with Sarah. Last year we said she's looking great. This is going to be her year. But then she just can't translate that into success at the CrossFit Games. Why is this year possibly different?
I think she's changed a lot. She said she changed a lot going into the Open. She took herself out of her comfort zone, which was her gym. She did the workouts with Annie at her gym. She's changing up her training a little bit, including other athletes in her training. I think that's for her. She's trusting a little bit more of her instincts. She's trusting more of her experience, and that's going to set her on a path going into 2020.
There are plenty of sanctioned events left. We're only through 5, and we have 22 of these things left. Let's take a look at what is upcoming here on the sanctioned event season and some dates that you're certainly going to want to circle on your calendar. May 15th through the 17th, that will be the second Rogue Invitational at the Rogue headquarters in Columbus, Ohio. There going through the qualifier right now, an online competition to decide 7 spots for the men and 5 spots for the women. So they invited the top 15 for the men and the women. Some spots still up for grabs in the qualifier. That's going on right now. It ends the 20th of January, so you can still get into that. Josh, you programmed the Invitational last year. You programmed the qualifier this year. What's the difference between programming something that where you know you're going to put the best athletes in the world through the ringer as opposed to you have to put a wider variety of athletes through a test?
Yeah, it's obviously it's got its restrictions, right? And you also it's got its restrictions due to the fact that we can't do a lot of some of the movements like running or rope climbs, things like that. You know, those things are gonna be pulled back. But and then making it a broad range of tests where more people can be involved in the qualifier, like the open, like what the CrossFit Games Open does for everyone. It's very inclusive. The qualifier does that, but it's a test of fitness, and still does have to do that, and it has to bring the right people to the Invitational. And so, yeah, it's really fun. It's a fun process to be involved in. Yeah,
Margot, last year you competed as an individual at the Rogue Invitational. It was your final individual competition. What was it like from an athlete's perspective to be part of that event?
It was obviously a unique experience, and it was epic on all levels. I'm glad I had the experience to do that last year as my last individual competition. The biathlon event was one of my favorite events. Obviously 2 days full packed of events, but the energy from the crowd, the energy from the community, the amount of athletes, the level of athletes that were there was just superb. It was an amazing experience.
Josh, what did you learn last year from programming that event that is going to help you do it again here in 2020?
Yeah, I mean, any time you get experience under your belt, it's always a good thing. It's never a bad thing. And so learning from watching how it unfolded, watching, the time constraints that we had, the number of athletes, the number of heats that we want to do to make it a test of fitness and also be put on a good show for people to watch. You learn a lot from a one-year experience. So I'm excited for the year coming, and I think we're going to have a really great test coming out there for everyone.
So last year we had the biathlon that Margot mentioned. We had a ruck run, and then for the teams we had the team tug of war, which is a blast to watch. Any tricks up your sleeve this year that you want to maybe throw out there?
I mean, we're definitely it's gonna be a test. It's gonna be fun, and there's definitely gonna be some interesting things there. But nothing out. We're not gonna put anything out just yet.
I was hoping I could get you to spill the beans a little bit. If you were at the Invitational last year, if you watched it, it was a blast, and the field is going to be loaded again this year. We're going to have a great time in 2020 in Columbus at the Rogue Invitational.
We have never seen a field this deep in any qualifying event ever.
The level of competitors that are here is unreal.
We are definitely in the presence of excellence.
See it to me, 1 rep to go. Fraser is going to smash the top time and looking like he's going to win the Rogue Invitational. All eyes of the CrossFit world will be on Columbus, Ohio in May for that event. All eyes in the weightlifting world will be on Tokyo, Japan later this year in August as Team USA gets set to go for gold over there. We stopped by Waxman's gym earlier this week. We spoke with international weightlifting coach and member of the USAW Board of Directors, Sean Waxman, and asked him about what weightlifting fans can expect from Team USA when they hit Tokyo.
Sean, thanks so much for taking the time to do this. The weightlifting world's eyes will be on Tokyo here in a few months as the Olympics are getting set to get started. Who are the men and women that United States weightlifting fans should be watching?
So, on the men's side, CJ Cummings, Harrison, Wes Kitts, and Kane Wilkes are pretty much shoo-ins for the Olympic team coming up. Kane, there are 3 other guys that are in competition for that 4th spot, but it would take an act of God for them to overtake Kane. So Alex Lee and Jordan Cantrell are 2. I don't remember the 3rd, but those 4 are pretty much a lock to make the team.
What about on the women's side now?
Women's side, Kate Nye is pretty much, I think she's already a lock. She's in. And Maddie Rogers is pretty much a lock. She has a pretty easy road to make it to 87. and Sarah Robles is going to make it. And the fourth spot is an interesting one. There's 3 that are mathematically eligible for that spot. Jordan Dela Cruz has the spot in her control. So it's if she posts a total, I believe, over 194, she's pretty much in the driver's seat in one of the upcoming competitions. Her teammate, Morgan King, is in the mix, but she's like in the 3rd position. And in the middle position is Alyssa Ritchie. She's the interesting one. Because if Jordan slips up and Alyssa has a big day, Alyssa can overtake Jordan. So that's really where the most intrigue lies in this. Other than that, it's not too much intrigue. As long as in this qualifying period, as long as those athletes post a qualifying total in either a bronze, silver, or gold level meet, they're going to make the team.
What does the qualification process look like now for these athletes?
It started about 12 months ago.
Okay.
And there are 3 qualifying periods. An athlete had to have at least 1 total in each qualifying period, and then a 4th total on top of that. So they take the top total based on Roby points, which adds another level of complexity, and they add those points at the end. And there's a standard to be able to qualify for the Olympics. The top 8 in the world rankings without duplicate. So like China might have 53 athletes in the top 8. They can only have 1.
Yeah.
And then or number 1 in your continental region. So Pan Am region is us.
Right.
So if you're the number 1 athlete in Pan Am region or top 8, you would be able to be eligible to qualify for the Olympics. So 1 total in each qualifying period, 1 extra total, add those up, the Roby points, and then that's how we pick the team.
Want to thank Sean Waxman one more time for taking the time to speak with us, and all the best to the USA weightlifters as they get set for the Olympics in Tokyo, Japan. Bill Crawford back on set here as we now focus on what's happening today at the Arnold Strongman USA. These athletes have put in the training. They're just getting set now to take the floor and compete. What's going through their minds at this point?
Well, strength athletes toil in isolation year after year. So for them, this is a chance, just one chance today to validate that toil and to qualify for the Arnold Strongman Championship. It's basically does the physical preparation meet the mental game today? And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, we talked about Brian Shaw needing to win here today, and he has had some tremendous performances over his career. He's going to have to come up with another huge one here in Santa Monica to keep his streak alive of making it to the Arnold Strongman Classic in Columbus, Ohio.
Brian Shaw, he has finished first or second 7 of the last 8 years, and he has won this competition 3 times. 1,021 pounds on the bar.
Let him hear it, folks!
He's got an injury and he's still pushing on. The heart of a champion.
Now things getting serious for Brian Shaw in round 2.
This is going to challenge his mental strength.
Shaw, by any means necessary, just trying to move that thing, and that'll be it.
Brian Shaw and his fellow competitors will be facing 5 events here today in Santa Monica, and they are all going to be tremendous to watch, and all of them sort of favor different athletes. We'll get into that in a second, but we're going to start in just a matter of minutes here with the Slater log at Clean and Press. There's a farmer's walk event, the sandbag throw, the deadlift for reps is going to be really exciting, and then we're going to close things out at about 3:45 Pacific time with the Rogue Strongman sandbag load. So just a couple questions here for you, Bill. First off, go through those events. Who do you think each one favors?
Well, the log press, I know Rob Kearney's had some really great training. He looks great. All the strongmen are really experienced with this event. It's a classic event. And then when you get into the Farmer's Walk, another classic event, but I have to say that Martins and Brian are going to draw on their great experience in competitions. Really heavy, 400 pounds a hand. It's unbelievable. The third event is the bag over bar. I have to look at Brian and Yitzhak because of their great height and their explosiveness. They're great athletes. And then the fourth event, the deadlift. This is red meat for the strongman fans. I think it's going to take about 10 reps. I'm looking at Gerry to do that. And then the last event just comes down to will. It's going to be the sandbag carry. Martins is a lion. Martins has an ability to overcome the implements, and he's going to really excel at that one.
Obviously, you have to have the skills. You have to be strong to succeed here, but you also have to have some strategy. How should these athletes approach this day of competition?
Well, basically, with a fast start, you want to be able to, line yourself up and have the ability to change yourself in the order so you can watch the other athletes. We touched on that. But mostly, they're just 5 events.
Yeah.
And because of that, you don't have room to falter. But there's 5 events, and as we talked about, you can also continue to push yourself hard through this short afternoon.
Well, Gerry Pritchett is one of the athletes who will have to push himself through this afternoon. He is relatively safe when it comes to the point standings and getting to the Arnold Strongman Classic in March, but he still has some work to do, and he spoke with Margot Alvarez earlier today.
Thanks, guys. I'm here with Gerry. We know deadlift is your specialty. What events are you most nervous about today?
Log's a big one. I have to make sure I don't lose any points on. I lost a lot of points on log last year. So I worked really hard on my log, so hopefully it shows today. Bag toss and bag carry, too, is another thing I've worked really hard on to keep my endurance up.
Okay, awesome. So with your training, you've prepped a lot for that in terms of being able to be obviously fixing those weaknesses?
I have, yeah. I've hit those every week, working my ass off at the gym on those, so hopefully it pays off today.
Awesome. Well, good luck today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks. Back to you.
Thank you, Margot. I'm going to put you on the spot now. Who's going to win this whole thing?
Well, a lot of pundits have been talking a lot, and everybody's got an opinion. My heart says Brian. Brian's a great champion. I've seen his career from a front row seat for a number of years, but my mind says Martins. These events really match up to his skill set, and also he can use his strength endurance prowess to really do a lot today.
Now, if it's not one of these two guys, who is someone in the field who might be able to throw a monkey wrench in here and play spoiler?
Gerry Pritchett has to come across with a big performance today. He's got several events that are going to match up well for him, particularly the deadlift. I see him winning 1 or 2 of the events. He could actually pull this out.
All right. Well, we're set to kick this thing off. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with the start of the Arnold Strongman USA with the Slater Log Clean and Press. Let's keep it right here on the Rogue Iron Game.